we're only going to be able to scratch the surface tonight. If you have any questions, I think it would be good if you raised your hand and I could answer it, but basically what I'll try to cover is running 101. Let me just see anybody here has never run? Okay, so, all right, so people who's a recreational runner? Okay?
Get out of here.
Get out of here. So, okay, and then other people have run before and they train regularly and perhaps most likely have competed in some of the local races and things like that. Okay, all right. So I'll get to know everybody as time moves on, but that's good. We got a bunch of runners here. So have you been training through all of this craziness? Half and half, somewhere around. Okay. I try to get out every other day. I try to run, in opposite direction. I'm a little bit fortunate. I have private paths and stuff like that, so I run a different. So be safe and all of that. One of the subjects today was what kind of running, what kind of training we do. So, good question. It depends, is the answer. Depends on how far along you are, it depends on your age, it depends what your goals are. Marathon, 5K, very different. Some of us have just done virtual mile, 1 mile, which is a sprint, all right? So the first time they did it, they were like aghast. They almost didn't finish. Then I took them out and I said, okay, this is what running a mile is supposed to feel like. So they got used to feeling that way. And the second time they did it, huge improvement, all right? So it matters what your goals are, all right? So that's something else that hopefully we can communicate. Does everybody have my, I think, text? You should get my text. Someone publish my text.
Okay.
I am not on F-book. Right? You can tell how I feel about F-book. I'm not on social media. I think it's the bane of humanity, and I refuse to have anything to do with it. I'd rather talk to someone or nowadays text, and that's the fastest way to get me. But emails as well. I do have email on my hip, so, but whatever. But if you don't know my number, then it doesn't do any good. And I also, though many of you know that I'm notorious for being a night owl, and that's when I'm able to get to answer a lot of people. So anyway, getting back to running, in the little blurb that I read, we're talking about speed work, fartlek, LSD, hills, track, and there was one that was really, I think, is very important, that was actually left off, and that's called tempo runs, all right? I don't know, anybody, is everybody familiar, anybody not familiar with those terms?
What's LSD other than the obvious?
Long, slow distance.
Okay.
It was coined by Joe Henderson in about 1976. I have his first book. I mean, literally the first book that he wrote. He signed it. Joe Henderson's a friend of mine. I have his first copy, but he penned that, LSD, long, slow distance. It's also Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. Long, slow distance is, for those of us who follow Lydiard, and in the beginning, it's not a bad thing to do. In the end, it may not be the best thing to do, but Coach Lydiard starts in phases. Now, I do the same thing, but it basically starts by getting you fit, all right? So there are some runners I'm coaching right now that the main goal is to be able to work out. I call it pre-training, all right? That's where you would do long, slow distance. The reason for that is, in case you're wondering, is, believe it or not, there's all kinds of stuff going on inside your body when you're working out, particularly training to run. And I don't mean swimming or biking. All of those things are endurance sports and everything. But running itself does things inside your body. I don't want to get too medical or biological or but it's building capillary beds like crazy, all right? It's increasing mitochondria. That's your energy source and things like that. It's building blood volume. It's doing all kinds of crazy, wonderful, wonderful things that you don't feel right away, but in a few weeks' time, sometimes less, you say, well, this is easy. Give me some more, you know, that kind of thing. So you work your way into that. I'll give you an example of how I like to start newcomers, which nobody's here is a newcomer, but I'll say I'm a good believer in strength and conditioning. All right, so give me a push-up, and they start doing 10 push-ups. I said, no, I want 1 push-up. All right, tomorrow I'll ask for 2. Same thing with LSD. We start with, depending on what it is, we'll start with a half, you know, like tonight, we'll start with, you people are runners, so we'll start with 30 minutes. It's going to be very easy, all right? And then from there, you build. And you build on success, meaning this is easy. I can do this. Let's do some more, all right? And you just constantly build until people who are starting out with 15-mile weeks, 8, 10-mile weeks, suddenly can do 30-mile weeks, and it feels the same. It feels the same. And I know running a half marathon suddenly can be done, right? All right. Gina over here just did a virtual half marathon. I'm sorry, Dina. Geraldina. That's the G part. So it's amazing how that happens, all right? People who are running 50, 60 miles, someday in the not too distant future, I know who they are, will be running 100, 120 miles because it feels the same and it will, there's no question, by the way, that's a point. There is no question in my mind and pretty much anybody else's mind that the more you run, the further distance, the more time on your feet, TOF, the better runner you will become. Now comes the next part of that sentence. If it's feasible, if you can do it. We're all working people, we all have kids, we all this, that, and the other thing. It's not always feasible, so you have to be reasonable, all right? There is no question that the more you can run, the better. Bill Rogers is not a good runner. He's one of the best marathoners that ever existed because he just ran out and ran 120, 150 miles a week and made himself a marathoner. That's it. He's not a particularly outstanding runner. Anybody don't know who Bill Rogers is? Okay, well, Bill Rogers is really the star. Him and Frank Shorter, he and Frank Shorter started a running boom that we're part of right now, second wave. Bill Rogers won 4 Boston marathons and 4 New York City marathons and countless other marathons. He's run over 100 sub-2:15 marathons in his day, which meant he was running a lot of marathons. He's from Boston, and I have a note about him. I'll tell you about him later. So, LSD, great question. Thank you, Cindy. Everybody understand what LSD? Now, LSD, the key word is. Okay, Cindy. Slow. So, I had the good fortune of hosting the Kenyan champions at the Bridge Run, right? World-class athletes. They run 10K, 6.2 miles in less than 27 minutes. 27 minutes. They are on their way back home to Kenya before the last starter starts the Bridge Run. Right? And that's no joke. They stay with me, and I go out on the ride. I put them through their paces. They have a hard time catching up with me, but I'm on a bike. They start out, believe it or not, at 14 minutes per mile. We can all walk faster than that. That's how they start out. And actually, when you go and you see them train at the beginning of camps, there'll be 20 or 30 people. They'll be almost marching in step, slowly, in a group. It's amazing. We don't do that. I'd love to be able to get a group that could do that. We'd all be sort of self-conscious about doing it. You know, we're not in Kenya, we're not on grass, we're out here. So, but if we ever get a group of you on the track, we're gonna do it in syncopation. Slow. You do not have to go fast. Slow is even slower than conversational pace, all right? It's just slow. It's just getting out there and doing it. If you have to walk in between, fine. Cover the time, cover the distance. Slow. Build the base. I'm thinking that we already have a base that we've built going into the next bunch of weeks. So that's good, but we'll see, all right? So that was LSD, slow, and long. Long is relative. For me, I mostly coach marathoners, and I have coached elite marathoners in the past. Long is defined in my world as it doesn't even start until 15 miles, all right? Most of us here are not going to see 15 miles, most of us. So in a 5K, if you're training for a 5K, which is what most of us are, a long run, you know, maybe you'll get to 10 miles someday, you know, but it's really the longest run of the week, right? Could be 3 miles and the other days are 2. It's really, when we say long, we mean the longest run of the cycle. I shouldn't say week, right? Some cycles are 10 days or 2 weeks. Most of my cycles, mesocycles and macrocycles, are weekly. It just works out that way in America, but it doesn't have to be. So one long run, or the equivalent, I'll explain that some other day, during the week, during the cycle, I should say. So I think we all sort of know what speed work is, right? We think we know what speed work is. Actually, speed work, again, I put brackets around speed. It's running faster than what you normally do, and usually it's not, you can't, it's like one-word sentences, all right? That's about all you can hold. Then there's degrees underneath that. Some of us do what's really speed work. And another term for that, if you've ever run in high school is, or college, is intervals. Anybody know what the interval is in an interval workout?
400?
The interval is the time when you're not running. That's the interval. Right? You do a 200 or a 400, right? And you do repeats of those. But the interval is the amount of time that the coach gives you to recover.
I'm really good at those.
Right. Some people really cherish those recovery moments, and then the coach gets on. So that's sort of what speed work is, and it has its time and place. Definitely has its time and place in 5K. A little less so in terms of importance if you're worried about what, you know, time management, but when you're worried about when you're training for a marathon, all right, speed work is not all that important. It's good for certain things, and I do interject it, but I don't put as high a priority on it. The big one here, I think everyone that saw on it is, and by now you probably all know what fartlek is.
I'm gonna say no.
All right. So one word, the first word is speed work, and fartlek is speed play. That's exactly what it means in Swedish. Someday I'll tell you a story about the Swedish national anthem, but that's another day. Speed play. Now I find it interesting, a lot of people say they've done fartlek, and then they proceed to tell me what they've done. They ran 30 seconds hard, and they ran a jog a minute, and they ran 30 seconds. That's not speed play. That's a different kind of workout. Speed play is, hey, wow, look at that telephone pole over there. Let me see how fast I can get there. 50 meters. Then you stop and you recover and you lollygag and you watch the birds, and then, oh, let's go again. Usually it's done in the forest, which is, I literally did this in the forest. I was fortunate when I started my second running career, which was marathoning, I lived in the forest. And